there are about 73 different food producing plants in this little area. That's freaking amazing. So instead of using lawns like most places do, and by the way, it's an Airbnb. If you want to come and stay here at Galt's Landing, please do. We've got an incredible Airbnb model. And instead of using lawns, sign here at the front gate basically says implied consent is not granted. No government official is allowed to step foot on this property unless hundreds of visitors. And we have 100% success rate. Every single person that visits here leaves inspired. Oh, and this is the best part. 16 months ago, pounds of honey. It's mind-blowing. It's so amazing. And not only did we get honey, but the bees. The best places to meditate. Abundance of nature. Food, water, and energy solutions that are going global fast, and we'll have a perennial peanut pathway. So again, this doesn't have to be any maintenance. If you want a fancy landscape that fits your HOA guidelines, you don't have a freaking clue. Wealth grows on trees. So what our job is right now is to compost the fiat. When we compost, you shall know them. So what if we demonstrate it in such a way that it inspires the good people? Well, what about prisons? We're putting, by the way, we're doing this. We're designing food forests for prisons here, and we're helping the inmates grow their own food. Hey, my friend, look at you. Woo-hoo. You want a mushroom? Yeah. Look at that. Oh my God. That is manna from heaven. It's a gift from heaven right there. It's so good. Look at that. These are Jamaican shire.
Welcome once again, my friends. This is Dissolving the Divide with Leslie Powers. I'm Derek Bartolaccelli, and we have such a great honor and pleasure to have Jim Gale with us, Mr. Food Forestry, in the place to be. And we are going to try to sprinkle and plant some seeds wherever, there's, fertile soil, and also bring some of that soil to the conversation in regards to how we can, grow our way into more self-reliance and sovereignty and things that are just such a win-win for the individual, the family, the community, and that rippling out effect. And what Jim has to say and what he's already said and worked on is monumental. And I'm so honored and happy to, have this conversation. And I'll let Leslie introduce him and all that stuff. So how's it going? Happy Saturday, yeah?
Right. Yes. Happy Saturday. Welcome, Jim. Talk about abundance. Your channel, Food Forest Abundance, really is exemplified, like the amazing opportunity that we all have to create like lush landscapes of food and interconnectedness. So I really would love for you to share a little bit more about what you're doing, your passion and your purpose here.
Well, thank you so much, Derek and Leslie. Apologies for coming to you from the car. I am at an event here in Cape Canaveral at Mel's event. It's called the Quantum Summit 1776, and listening to incredible speakers, and I'm speaking here as well. And so anyway, I'm running out to the car now so I can chat with you all and everybody listening. And then we'll jump back in when I'm in the food forest so I can walk you and everybody around through the future, right? To show you what's possible in our world, right? This idea, the vision of the Garden of Eden, right? Most everybody has heard of this idea of the Garden of Eden, a place of incredible beauty and abundance and collaboration and food everywhere. Well, that's what I'm living now. My home, my family is living completely off the grid, right? And in luxury. There's this this narrative, which is a lie, that being off the grid is somehow living in scarcity. That is simply not true. We have absolute abundance. In fact, we have over 240 different species of edible and medicinal plants all around us, along with 7 species of fish and chickens and turkeys and ducks and cows and bees. And it's pure paradise. And for those of you who are feeling maybe envious or jealous, that's not the point of this. The point of this is that everybody can have this, and everybody should have this. And once we realize this, we start taking steps towards this, then the world is free. Humanity is free. When we have food everywhere, where everybody eats for free, and water is everywhere and plentiful, then the foundation of freedom is built. So that's what our job is to help inspire and empower a shift in awareness that leads to the choice of choosing life and abundance over the current systems.
Yeah, those systems aren't too currently feasible these days, you know, and yeah, left versus right, you know, Democrat versus Republican, and all this stuff. And yeah, you've been cruising around. You're quite a journeyman. You've been living in different countries throughout your life, and you've seen different political landscapes, including, you know, the mafia side of the government in Costa Rica, that incident, and you stood up against them. That was fucking awesome. And so, you know, there's a lot of people in the freedom community, anarchy community, and this and that, who have differing opinions, and it's just creating division and this and that of, you know, like, what's the best way, and, you know, like, from A to Z, what do we got to do, and the steps towards freedom, and what to do, and da da da, and like, yeah, like, you are an abolitionist, a voluntarianist, and all these things, and you're actually, you know, kind of like walking the talk. When there's a lot of people in the peanut gallery just kind of cracking a lot of noise and just kind of just not really helping out. And, you know, we have a lot of people that are commentating on the issues, and it's one thing to complain and this and that, and another to bring solutions to the table with those complaints and observations. And then there's another thing to really act, you know, and, you know, build that sovereign society, as you mentioned, or self-sufficient society, or as I like to call it, a hermetically sealed society. So yeah, man, I anything on that? Because, you know, you see, I'm sure you come up on resistance and people just, you know, making crude negative remarks, you know, on videos or your presentations or whatever. And so you've been on the front lines, you've done live talks like you are today, which is awesome, and all that stuff. So if you want to share anything of what you've experienced in regards to that, and how you've been able to kind of flip the script and kind of make them see the positive sides of things when it was once negative.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start with a story that happened a few months back, where I got a call from my partner on the land, one of my good friends, the godfather to our daughters. He calls me up and says, "Jim, there's a guy with a badge on asking about permits for your house." He said, "Where are the building permits for this home?" And I was on the other end of the property. I took a deep breath. I breathed in spirit, and I got my phone out and I started walking towards this official, all right, this policy officer. And when I saw him standing there near my house with a little clipboard, I walked up to him and I said, "Hi, my name is Jim Gale, and I'm recording this conversation so we don't mix up any words." I said, "What's your name?" And he gave me his name. And then I said, "Implied consent is not granted. So how did you get permission to come on my private land?" And he said, "Apologies, the gate was open, so I just came in." And he said, "I will leave if you want me to." Well, that show of willingness to abide by my standards on my land opened up a doorway for me. And I said, well, maybe that's a good idea. But first, I would like to share with you what we're doing and what our intentions are here. And I took him into the food forest, which is only 100 yards from where we were standing. And I said, this is what we are all about. We are here to be the stewards of this land. We are here to create abundance, and we are here to share that abundance with our community. And we will not comply with your ways, because what the government will allow us to do if we stay slaves is to poison the land and to kill the land and create biological death zones, deserts that are basically void of life. You'll allow me to put in monocultures and GMO grasses in that are very competitive and do not support life. You'll allow me to kill and cut everything and poison everything. We will not do that. We will openly stand in civil disobedience, in civil defiance to that action by doing what we are doing. So we will help you do it better, but you have no authority here. 20 minutes into our conversation, he had tears in his eyes, and he said, I will never bother you again. And if I have anything to say about it, the people I work with won't bother you either.
Wow, that's a beautiful story. That openness that you had to like really demonstrate the heart of what you're doing, right? And the abundance, that's great that you were able to also pick up on his humanity, the sliver, that piece of humanity in him.
That's the key. Everybody can be inspired, right? Martin Luther King is one of my heroes. And I just read a quote this morning, so I'm going to do my best at reiterating it. Cowardice asks, is it safe? Politics ask, shoot, okay, I'm going to go to the easier one. Martin Luther King said, those who love peace must learn to organize as effectively as those who love war. Right? That one is just hit home like a ton of bricks. So then it begs the question, how? How do we organize effectively to bring the solutions to the masses? And the solutions are very simple. First, we take ownership of who we are, and we stand in civil disobedience to everything that's unjust. In fact, the quote is coming to me. Cowardice asks, is it safe? Expedience asks, is it politic? Vanity asks, is it popular? But the conscience will ask, is it right? And there will come a time when we must stand in defiance. And we will know that we are not doing what is safe. We are not doing what is politic. And we are not doing what is popular. Instead, we are doing what is right. And that's the only thing that can guide me now is it right? I have risen up through study and awareness of who I am and who we all are to know the divine. I've stood up and said, I will no longer comply with any form of force and violence, which is guided by fear, right? A slave is a slave because they're either unaware that they are a slave. Like Goethe said, none are enslaved than those who falsely believe they are free. And fear is the mechanism of control. And fear and faith cannot reside in the same energy field. So I have, through learning that, I have given myself to faith. And it is the idea whose time has come, stronger than all the world.
That's amazing. And it brings me to this, you modeled that experience of stepping forward in faith and truth and what was right when you spoke to that man from the place of a person to person, right? Not being afraid of his uniform or his badge. And that shifted something real. And it reminds me of this idea of manifestation, you know, that's trendy, but I feel like you have found some keys to true manifestation. And I wondered if you might speak on that a bit.
Yes. So Napoleon Hill, who studied the most successful men in the history of the world, and he wrote books. One was called Think and Grow Rich. Another one is Outwitting the Devil, which came out later because of the politics of the day. But his book, Think and Grow Rich, he deducted whatever the mind can conceive and believe it can achieve. Now, if we sit with that for a little bit, whatever my mind, whatever your mind can conceive and believe it can achieve, that is a God statement. That is a statement of divine connection. And so my question to that statement, what can I conceive and believe? And after decades of obsession of asking that question, and now a joyful and loving obsession has overcome me. What I know is possible, what I can conceive and believe, is that we will usher in the golden age. And the Garden of Eden will literally be our prize.
What about, and it's like the Garden of Eden, because you're eating good and healthy and very more nutritious than what we find in, you know, these sacrilegious type of supermarkets. Leslie, sorry. Yeah.
Well, when you're in the food forest, you know, we'll see the lush abundance. But I also know that started from sand, right? Can you share a little bit of how you transformed the land?
Yes. So we started at Galt's Landing with a cattle pasture, and it was basically just a couple of different types of grasses and some what people consider weeds. The weeds, we find out, are some of the best plants we have. We dug a 4-acre pond, 25 foot deep, and then we used that material to build the land up where we were putting our houses. So the land that we started with all around our houses was earth that came from, on average, about 10 feet underground. It was Florida sugar sand mixed with a little clay. There was not any life in this earth. I mean, very little. And so we used the permaculture principles, and we started layering. We started by covering the whole area in mulch. Mulch is just wood chips and biomass. And then we designed the land, we designed the permaculture pathway, and we designed the land to accept plants that produce food, and also the gilding plants, the plants that come together to benefit each other, like your pollinators, your pollinator attractors, your green chop and drop manure plants, your Mexican sunflower and perennial peanut and sunshine mimosa. And those plants, a couple of them fix nitrogen in the soil. They're like a living Band-Aid for the earth. And then we put in our comfrey, and then all of our food producing plants. We actually now are surrounded by over I think I mentioned 240 different species of edible plants all around us. And here's the key. I'm not a farmer, nor do I want to be. Instead, I'm a harvester. I'm a treasure hunter. My family, we can go outside, and in 10 minutes, we can have a basket of healthy, poison-free food anytime. And we never have to do another bit of work to plant another tree or another plant in the ground. They grow themselves exponentially.
Nature's supermarket. Wow. I love it. Yeah.
so with the permaculture principles, it creates a self-sustaining food forest, is what you're saying.
Yes, just like the Amazon rainforest was a designed food forest about 5,000 years ago.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Was from the indigenous peoples there?
Yep. I believe what divided into such a high state as visible.
Okay, we lost you there for that sentence.
Oh, I think that the people that live there, they vibrated into such a high state of consciousness that I think they're not, our awareness of.
Ah, well, hello, we're back, and you can tell Jim is in his his digs over there at Galt's Landing, a beautiful backdrop, which he's going to share with us more. So, Jim, we were talking about permaculture, and just like you to jump right in and share some more about how your vision has been unfolding, and I'd like to hear about those permaculture principles.
I love it. Well, it's good to be back. I was at a conference this weekend, the Quantum Summit 1776 with Mel Carmine, and it was fantastic. It's groups of people that I'm not used to chatting with, right? XRP fans and the Trump train fans and different people that I have not heard a lot of their stories, and it was really absolutely beautiful. I met so many nice people, and then as a result of my talk, which got a lot of excitement, there was just about 16 people here at Galt's Landing that came for a tour. And next level, like what we're demonstrating is demonstratably the solution to all of the world's biggest problems. When we take the poisons out and we use our resources wisely, then we solve deforestation and mass extinction and cancer and diabetes and heart disease. We end hunger and we end tyranny, right? When Henry Kissinger 50 years ago said, if you want to control people, control food, that wasn't just the ramblings of a madman. That was the guy in charge of the strategy he was a slave master, right? So what we're doing here at Galt's is we're demonstrating faith and courage and freedom and abundance on every conceivable level. And it really, we had several people here crying, an older fella and another lady, they were bawling, tears in their eyes of joy when they experienced this.
Wow, I can't wait to get out there. I want to experience it myself.
Yeah, that seems to be a common theme. You've been on radio shows and you hear people saying like, yeah, I got that spark in my heart, or, like it makes you want to cry thinking about all these wonderful things it's talking about. And yeah, that's awesome. And on the contrary, because, our show, we're not obsessed with, all the negativity and stuff. We just notice, and observe objectively that there's going to be resistance coming up from any pathwork or any kind of solution that we try to have or, participate in, whether it be, even just hecklers on the side, digitally or in real life, as, you've been to many live conferences and this and that. So what has been kind of that situation, and how have you been able to kind of work your magic in a sense and kind of win them over, or, avoid?
The biggest way is, here it is, right? This idea of the Garden of Eden, which is a place of radical, at least in my mind, right? Was it a true thing? Did it actually exist? Well, I can't say for certain, but what I know for absolute certain is it should exist, is it can exist, and it does exist in pockets, right? I'm sitting here in a banana circle that has probably about 100 bananas above me that will be ripe in a couple weeks. And the amount of energy that this system is creating is exponential. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, this right here, this leaf, this is a solar panel, right? The sun hits this solar panel and turns somehow, which our scientists, nobody but God understands how this works. And this solar panel right here turns dirt and water into bananas. That's bananas. That's incredible. AI can't do that, right? So when people stand in this system and they see the mulberries and the Jamaican cherries and the Suriname cherries and the Barbados cherries and the avocados and the peaches and the plums and the longevity spinach and the sweet potatoes, when they stand in a system that takes zero maintenance, right? I'm not a farmer, and I don't want to be. I want to be a treasure hunter, a harvester of God's design perfection, right? That's what this is. That's what the Garden of Eden is we're surrounded by it. We have 240 different species of edible and medicinal plants all around us. Now, it's only 2 years old, by the way. This is a baby living system, and it already provides exponentially more food than we need to thrive. And again, I don't have to farm. I just walk outside, and whatever fruits or vegetables are ripe at the time, right? Or chicken eggs are available at the time. The fish, the chickens, we have all sorts of different animals integrated into the system as well. And it's so easy. And you asked about the permaculture ethics and principles. The ethics are so simple too. The permaculture ethics are earth care, people care, and fair share. Now, that fair and the word share have been corrupted. So I'm going to restate the third principle of permaculture. It's reinvesting our surplus to earth care and people care. When we do that, we can all have mansions. We can all be flying private planes. We can all be using our extra time on fancy yachts because there's epic abundance. It's the hoarding and the greed and the insane use of our resources that causes all of the problems, right? This idea of hoarding means I don't have faith that I'm going to be able to do it again. So I'm going to hoard all the resources I can hoard. And at the same time, they're spraying poisons all over the place. So they're lowering nature's ability to create massive abundance. And at the same time, they're hoarding the abundance that is here. Our job is to simply switch that around, to take the poisons out and then reinvest our surplus. Everybody has, well, the Garden of Eden.
Yeah. So I'm hearing that for people who are open and open-hearted and open and curious with their ideas, right? Willing to look at something new and different, that this is self-explanatory almost just by walking through the garden. And yet you're also sharing that there is some habits among people on earth to hoard, to be greedy, and to misuse the resources and perhaps not have the care or have not awakened really to the importance of caring and creating this natural abundance, right? Yeah. You've talked to some politicians I know, like Dr. Shiva, RFK Jr., and I really, and I've heard a little of your share with them to really impress upon them this as a solution. And I'm wondering, like, what kind of frustrations you've run into, or barriers you're seeing that people could be aware of and maybe help to break down. Such a good question, right when he froze.
Sorry guys, my camera got overheated and it turned off.
I know you're a busy man and you do everything you can for so many across the land, and goddamn.
So that's what we're doing, brother. Woohoo! All right, come check this out. So show us these panels too. Yeah.
You can see here, as we go, every panel is actually numbered, so when they are in the shop they can see it. It might just look like a regular steel frame, but every one of these cuts, swages, screw holes are already done in the shop. It's all 3D design, so it is a 3D print by definition.
Yeah, and this is the lake.
That's cool.
Yeah, we'll have a colloidal silver pool right here.
Ooh. Whoa.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
At least I'm out of the sun. This should be pretty good. All right.
Leslie, try to recall your question.
Yeah, so
go ahead.
So Derek had asked a bit about the resistance, right? The difficulty of people embracing this this vision and really seeing how this can be a solution, and that when people come and in person and see what you've done, it makes a huge impression, right? And people start to see the vision and see that it's real and not a fantasy. And yet, I know that you've been out, promoting this vision in the political realm a bit with RF Jr. and Dr. Shiva, and there are people that are still hoarding, greedy and misusing resources. And I'm wondering what it is that you think are the biggest resistances that people should know about, to this possibility.
Yes, that's a great question. The biggest resistance is awareness of who we are and awareness of what's possible. When we start realizing that we are part of God's divine system, which we call nature, and by stewarding nature, by benefiting, by putting our energy into supporting the land, the biggest benefactor is us, right? So people are not aware of who they are in relation to nature, and they're not aware of the benefits of stewardship. When we demonstrate the benefits of stewardship, then even the greediest bastards among us will become stewards, because it's in their best interest to do so. When we demonstrate the benefits of reinvesting our surplus to earth care and people care, then even the greediest bastards among us will want to serve humanity and put back in. And then the question is how? What is the most logical thing that we could do with all of our excess fiat? Well, we can compost it, right? Fiat, the money system, is in rapid decay. It's like shit. And what do we do with manure? We put it as the base for plants, for life. And it's failing so fast that the smartest thing people could do is take their 401ks and their IRAs, and they pay off their debt and they build up living systems. And by the way, the paying off the debt might not be good advice, so let's put a pin in that for a second. But definitely building living systems, right? The debt, we might even go through a jubilee, right? The banks, the whole system might collapse, and then those who have the biggest debt simply get their debt wiped out. And if you've exchanged your debt for real assets like fruit trees and food systems and chickens and so on, might be the best way you could spend money on your credit card right now.
Yeah. So there is a transformation that would be necessary in the minds of the people who are currently hoarding and not caring about humanity. In a way, it's like playing on their greed, right? To see that this is a way of getting abundance. And I think that the risk is that the government, or the players at this level of greed, in corporate America, would come in and try to make, control it, right, with fees and permits and like other plants that they're controlling, even though legal, right? So how do you see that people could protect their forests, their food forests, from those greedy hands of the government predators?
Well, first of all, this is kind of a Trojan horse, right? The government predators are going after the food supply chain. They're going after chickens, like they've just ordered to call another 4 million chickens, plus another chicken processing facility just got burnt down and destroyed last week. So the food supply chain is being destroyed. So when you say kind of protecting these from government predators, I would say just by building one, you're actually protecting the land, because, and this happened to me. Did I share the story about the county guy that came here a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Well, so the government predators came here and they left as allies. Right? Because when they see it and they hear the relevance and the story of creating these food systems, then especially when you put them on tape, when you put them on camera. Now, this guy was just a great guy. He didn't need to be filmed. In fact, I turned off the camera because I recognized he was a good guy and wanting to support us. But if they're not, you just keep those cameras rolling and you ask a few questions. Say, what do you feel? What do you think about this living system? Do you see all the butterflies? Do you see the bees? Do you know that there's a bee colony collapse issue going on around the world, especially the United States? Yes, they do. Do you know that we're going through the 6th mass extinction? Yes, they do. Do you know that we're destroying our land and farming is unsustainable? Well, maybe they do or maybe they don't. But when you ask these questions on film and say, what do you think about this system? Look at all the food. Look at all the bees. Look at all the butterflies. Look at all the life. Then what are they going to say? They're not going to say much, especially on camera.
That's illegal, man. What are you talking about? No.
Right? Isn't that funny? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like pointing out the ridiculousness of it, in a sense, helps, right? And I think getting the word out to as many people as possible to see how ridiculous it is to oppose something like a food forest, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I just want to say something because, a good amount of people that watch our show, they're kind of abolitionists, voluntarists like ourselves, even anarchists if you want, but that's a trigger for a lot of people that don't understand etymology, and it just means freedom. And what do you know when the opposite of freedom is government? Holy smokes, do the homework, folks. Anyways, so
exactly.
There's a good amount of folks in this camp, have been kind of red pilled out for however long. And so there's a good amount that have I wouldn't say a knee-jerk reaction, but they're just adamant to just not show any kind of compassion, humanity, respect for any, law enforcer or anyone that works for the state or the government and all this stuff. And I really appreciated your approach. You went prepared, you had a really good grammar about yourself, and you articulated, to the officer, hey, if you don't, just to let you know, I'm filming and all this stuff, and cool, calm, collected, but still kind of expecting, hey, this could go bad, or, you have the power to make it, a great situation. And that's what I mean when you work your magic to, it's like that, it's like that art of persuasion, you didn't have to be combative or anything. Hey, just look around, man. Let me ask you some questions. That's kind of like that Socratic method. So that's really cool. And that kind of just avoids friction and just, further the, creating just an encounter into a confrontation type, you know what I mean? So yeah, props on you, man.
Yeah. And, I think, thank you very much, Derek. It's important to share our wake-up stories and to share that we're all ignorant, right? I'm ignorant in infinite ways. There's a ton of stuff that I don't know anything about. And I recognize my own ignorance, and I recognize that I did the best I could based on what I was aware of. And I still do, right? These people, everybody is doing the best they can based on their programs, their cultural conditioning, their attitudes, their belief systems. It's all BS, right? And they're doing the best they can. When Obama first got elected, I woke up partially, and I'm still partially awake, right? But I really red pilled hard in 2007. And I learned that Building 7 fell into its own footprint at free fall speed, and it did not get hit by a plane. And that was, for me, that was the last straw. Everything else I could have rationalized to some degree, but not that one. And so I blamed that on Bush, Cheney, and Rice and Rumsfeld and all those guys. And then when Obama first got elected, I had tears of joy. And then he won the Nobel Peace Prize. And I'm like, yes, Obama's going to bring peace. Well, then he went and destroyed and bombed and absolutely destroyed cultures and communities and cities, turning them to rubble. And that's when I woke up to the next layer that it's all government and all corporations are the government, right? BlackRock is the government.
Yeah, it's the corporate United States of America these days. As it, we lost that old republic feel or whatever when the founding fathers and this and that. Leslie, I know you got some kind of questions brewing up in your brain. What's going on?
Well, I just don't. I mean, the word grassroots. This is a grassroots movement. This is an activism. It's an action, and I think that we many people feel rather confused and helpless and hopeless, but I really like what you're offering is a very concrete action step that is in effect activism, and that can counteract a lot of this dependency on a system that people stay connected to out of fear, right? And so you're saying that everyone can do this permaculture, everyone can create a food forest. So I'd like to hear more about that. There's people that live in deserts, and I'm in, mountainous, dry, rocky. How does what is the potential of permaculture in different terrains? And
yes, it's permaculture. It means permanent culture and permanent agriculture. And if you can grow any plants in your zone, then you can create a permaculture food forest. And it's just different, right? The plants that I have here in Central Florida, only maybe 10% of those plants would grow well in Minnesota. Maybe 30% of those plants would grow well where you are. One of the principles of permaculture is to catch and store water, right? To slow it, sink it, and spread it. So by creating swales and different water catchment systems, they've actually greened the deserts of Jordan, one of the most inhospitable places in the world, and they're creating food forests there. Now, it takes more time and more energy and thoughtfulness and sometimes resources, because you got to build earthworks and you got to learn how to catch and store water. But with permaculture, it can be done, and it can make the process a lot more simple.
Yeah, dissolving the divide, all these divisions, we got sand versus grass or fertile soil, and you got to bring in the mulch like you did to your place. I mean, it's incredible the undertaking you took to transform the terrain that you acquired into what you have now. And I think a lot of people these days, I'm sure you've noticed that, we're so conditioned to have these instant results, right? And for us to, really just get back into the rhythm of nature, this is the perfect thing to do, I feel.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, man. Yeah. Anything on that, or because you're way more experienced than me? I don't have anything growing.
It is.
I do, but not.
It's the perfect thing to do, like you just said. We live free. My cost of living has went down by 60 to 70%. Because now we have our own food, water, and energy systems all around us, and I don't need any money, quite frankly. From now on, the only thing we need money for is extras, like if we want to go to the movies, or if we want to go on a trip, or if we want to buy something that we don't grow here. But it's the most logical investment that I've ever made. It's the most self-serving, and it's beautiful on every level. People come here 100% inspired rate. We've had well over 1,000 tours now, and every single one of those people left here inspired and aware of new possibilities.
And with a belly full of mulberries, huh? No, just kidding.
Yeah, a lot of mulberries.
So it's really hopeful to me to hear that there is a way to create this abundant food source in almost any geography, right? In any climate. And so how does one, and it sounds like the work is up front, right? That the main energy output to creating it is in the beginning. You talked a little bit about the process of like layering, and I'm wondering if you might just explain that a little bit more.
Yes, absolutely. So what we started with, in fact, I'll show you around from this perch here. I'm on my deck of my lifetime family home. We're going to be doing a colloidal silver pool and then a pond right here with a little beach.
What?
Yeah. And then we put in, you can see, I don't know, these are brand new. We just put these fruit trees in the ground. We've got a bunch of sugar cane and sweet potatoes and peaches and plums and avocados and lychees and a couple other things down there. Same thing over here with different varieties of foods. And then, so the layers, you see how, you see it's kind of sandy over there with a little bit of green patches? Is that hard to see? Hello?
Yeah, we can see we're on mute.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay, so
Oh, there we
good.
go.
Okay, so yeah, that is what we started with. Everywhere, this whole area was sand, and then we layered it with mulch. Right, this is the area to be developed here in the near future. See all the mulch on the ground?
Yeah.
So we started with sand, and then we put mulch on, and then where we put the fruit trees in the ground, we put good soil around those fruit trees. So we were very strategic about our resources. We used the resources that we had access to in the most logical and efficient ways.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then how long, like, will it take for that to transform into a lush, dense forest?
Yeah. So in 2 years, we took a piece of sand, and now it has 240 different edible and medicinal species, hundreds and hundreds of different plants, and the support species. And now it's a thriving food forest that will produce food for my great grandkids as long as nobody chops it down or poisons it or there's not some type of climactic event.
Wow. Where do people find out about the plants that will thrive in their location?
Yeah. So you could, one place is foodforestabundance.com. We have a team of designers standing by to help people design their food forests. And then the design is a very comprehensive process with layers of details. And so that's one way to do it. The other way is just simply go online and start asking a lot of questions. What agricultural zone are you in? Right? That's really important. If you're in, 2A, it's going to be a lot different than 9B, right? And I'm from Minnesota. And by the way, my friend in northern Minnesota has an epic food forest with over 300 different species of plants. It's 5 years old, and it's absolutely paradise.
That's awesome. Yeah. I think your mic is muted, Les. But did you want to follow up on that? I'll let you go.
I'll let you go, Derek.
Okay. Good old Minnesota. How's it going, man?
Yeah, right? Yeah.
I was kind of curious. What has been like a common pattern in regards to, certain critique against your work, or if you will, in this it's like anyone out in the public, we're going to be critiqued for whatever reason. I don't mind constructive criticism. I accept it and welcome it, actually. But as far as like what you've noticed from skeptics and all that,
I got the question. One of the permaculture principles is to accept feedback and make adjustments, make small adjustments incrementally. Now, the biggest criticism that I've personally received from good friends and family is that I am poking the bear too much, that I'm taking too much of a risk by stating my position as a free man, right? And my answer to that is you cannot hold faith and fear at the same time. And I have chosen faith over fear. And the reason I've chosen faith over fear is...
And I know it's not a religious thing, but just for people listening, it's not a religious connotation when you're talking about faith.
Well, it's very spiritual.
Right, yeah.
So religions use spirituality, and sometimes for good and sometimes for bad, right? They use the half-truth of it. The truth of it is that there's nobody in between me and my connection to source or God or our creator, whatever we call this incredible creator of life. And so I stand firm that the only logical choice is faith, because this is temporary, right? What isn't temporary is God, is spirit, is our connection, and who we are at the higher level. And so people say, Jim, you're going to get thrown in jail, you're going to get killed, all these things. You know what? If that happens to me, then if I get thrown in jail, the message that I'm sending will go viral, because I've been, thanks to you guys and hundreds of others, been on so many shows that my request is that you do a show saying, look at this guy who's actually doing solutions is now getting thrown in jail. I don't think I'll get thrown in jail because they're not that stupid. Yeah, right? And if something else happens to me, then it goes even faster. And this is, by the way, not just my own belief system. It's something that came from reading the book, The Art of War, right? Where Sun Tzu said, know thyself, know thy enemy. 1,000 battles, 1,000 victories. Now, ponder that for a moment, because that's very powerful.
1,000 battles, 1,000 victories.
Yep. No, if you know
if you
yourself,
know yourself and not enemy, yeah. Condition.
Yeah.
You win every time.
Yes.
You win every time. So what could that mean? Well, it could only mean one thing: that we are part of the creation of things. We are part of God. How could we not be? The ego is the lie, right? The ego is the illusion. The ego is the AI, is the artificial intelligence, right? And it's not very smart. When we let our egos go and we become connected again in light mente, right? And in a mind free of programming, then we're free.
Yeah, I love that. I think that being connected to the garden must also have a transformative effect on the mind too. Yeah, a teacher itself.
It is the ultimate teacher. You know, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, I like to say, what came first, the Garden of Eden or enlightenment? But they go hand in hand. If you walk barefoot in a garden like ours, you're going to become more light mente. Why? Because when a butterfly flies by, it takes your attention to the now. When a bee buzzes by, it brings your attention to the now. When you look up and see a big rack of bananas or a big flower, and all of a sudden you are present, right? That is God's ultimate gift, is the present. Then boom. So, yeah. And also the flip side is when you become light-mented, when you become free of fear and programming, then, and you become aware of the possibility of a food forest of the Garden of Eden, then you simply want that, and you won't stop at anything until you get it, because it's just awesome.
Yeah. So people who are used to green grass lawns and, you know, things like that, it takes a mental shift, right, to reconfigure what you do with your space and your land. And I imagine that the typical way of pouring water into growing green grass that really has no function is not in the best interest. It's not being a good steward of our land. Maybe comment a bit on that shift.
Yeah, if you don't mind, Jim, I just want to piggyback on what you said, because yeah, we have a good friend in network, Jim Adams, and he's been doing really cool geometrical landscaping for a while. And even back then, like, 10, 15 years ago, people looking at onlookers be like, man, you're crazy. What are you doing? That kind of stuff. It's just, I don't know why, what happened. You're probably older than myself. I'm 40 years old, but the social conditioning is so powerful. And this American dream, people had to be asleep to believe that shit, right?
Yeah. So,
this white picket fence, just a grass lawn, and, to do what exactly? And so, yeah,
yeah, it's
I do have something in mind of why that is, because it stems from, ancient, monarchs that were able to, be super rich and be able to afford just, land that had nothing edible to grow on, because they could. It was like a statement. It's like, we can afford not to have this land for food because we're not poor. That kind of stuff. When there's all these serfs and all this stuff around, indentured servants or whatever, everyone living in poverty or having to work in the fields or for food, you know, day in, day out type of thing. So anything on that? Obviously with Leslie. Yeah.
Funny. It's the strategy of control. If you control the mind, you control the actions of the slave, of the peasants. And people say, but how could this be? Well, their only job of these people, of these kings and czars and royalty and all this BS system, their only job is to control the mind of their slave. So when they have all these meetings everywhere and strategy sessions and Davos and Council on Foreign Relations and the World Economic Forum, all this BS, it's all about one thing. How do we control things? They never say, how do we allow things? They never say, how do we put the systems in place where people collaborate and get together and support each other and create food systems everywhere? And it goes deep, deep, deep. And the cannabis thing is a good reflection of this. So back, what was it, like the teens, where the cotton industry and the drug industry and the Rothschilds and the medical, they got together and they recognized that hemp and cannabis was the most popular, useful plant and medicine and ropes and papers and cloth and fuels and 1,000 different uses. So they put together a smear campaign. And what did they include in their smear campaign? The church. They called it the devil's lettuce. They changed the name from cannabis to marijuana because it said cannabis on every bottle of medicine. So they said, oh, this is marijuana, and that's the Mexicans, it's all their fault, right? And then they brought it into the school system. And then they also brought it into Hollywood, and they created a TV show called Reefer Madness. That was exactly opposite of what the truth is. Then they hired the commissioner in New York to do a study with the FDA. And after he did the study, and it was supposed to vilify cannabis. And so after they did the study, the guy said, I'm sorry, but I can't do that. So then he was fired, and they got somebody else to publish the document, which is all lies. Well, the lawn is the same thing. They have taken the lawn in TV shows, and if you ever look back on old shows, you will see, and actually they're taking old cartoons, and they're now putting chemtrails in the background of cartoons. They're using Hollywood to program the mind. If you ever see movies of the Middle East, it's always a desert. There's no life anywhere. That's a bunch of bullshit. If you ever read books on the Fertile Crescent and these different places, they were absolute paradises.
I've been there, yeah. It's so beautiful, really, really.
Yep. So it's all lies. We turn off the screens, the TVs, and we become aware of the truth. And then the truth really does set us free.
Yeah, a lot to unveil. Yeah. So for people who are working full-time jobs, raising kids, and might say, I don't have time to do that, you know, how might you respond?
That's a great question. They don't have time not to. Right? This is not a time liability. This is a time asset. I now don't have to work anymore, ever again. If I completely quit working and I gave tours to those folks that show up, like today, a lot of people showed up. But if I could give just a couple of tours a couple times a week, I'd have enough money for all of my playtime, right? The travels and so on. I don't have to work anymore at all. That's the system. Now, we also have to become aware and not comply with the taxation system, because taxation is another form of slavery that forces you to work, to pay the rent on your land that you don't own. Well, I own my land is in trust.
Yeah,
right? I don't own it, and I'm very happy, but not the way Klaus Schwab says it.
Right.
What does stewardship really mean to you when you say we're stewards of the land?
Caring, observing, interacting, and caring. We observe, interact, and we care for the land. That's it. It's really that simple. And in fact, I talked to a lady today. She was here. She goes, my mango tree had like 1,000 buds on it, and it all came off, and I only got a few mangoes. I said, oh, was it dry? Did you observe and interact? She goes, oh, well, no. I said, did you ever water it during the drought? She goes, no. I said, okay, so if you would have spent 5 minutes, not even spent, if you would have invested 5 minutes twice a week and brought out some water and put it around the base of that tree, then you'd have your 1,000 mangoes. And she actually felt guilty and felt ashamed. I go, no, don't worry about it. This isn't about shame. It's about awareness, right? So next time, do the math, right? If there's a mango tree in Africa and I could, go water that tree and produce 1,000 mangoes on it, that's not worth my time because it's in Africa. But if it's out the back door and I invest 5 minutes and I add water to that tree 2 times a week, then the return on my time invested becomes epic, right? So we look at things not just from this is beautiful, let's save the world, but it's very logical as well.
For sure. Yeah, it is. It's about, paying attention, right? And those are new habits.
Yeah. It's like what? Flipping your script of the words? Like, are we paying attention or are we investing attention?
Yeah.
Right? I love that.
And I also think there's a flipping around our mindset. It's not a chore. It's actually an opportunity and it's a joy to walk through your garden and care for these plants that you've put in the ground, and to there's a relationship, I think, that you can develop with your trees and your plants that is very beautiful and enjoyable. And I wish that for people.
Oh, me too. It's epic. The plants care for us infinitely more than we care for them. When we give them a little bit of love, their love back, their energy, and I'm talking about real energy. Right now I can walk around and there's just free energy devices everywhere. There's food all over the place. And the more we pick, the more it seems like they love that. And then the more comes back. And then when we eat, like we just ate a bunch of lychees, one of my family's favorite fruit. And now we've got a box of lychee seeds, right? Every lychee has a seed. So every one of those seeds can produce 1 million more lychees over time.
Yeah, that's a great point. People have to really understand is, anything we're eating right now, tomatoes or whatever, fruit, even like strawberries, you just scrape the edges off and you have seeds. Those are seeds, like we can plant those, germinate them, and then, bada bing. Let's keep this positive cycle perpetuated to beyond infinity,
Yeah. What's the only fruit with the seeds on the outside?
Is it really strawberry?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Funny thing about strawberries. You remember the Matrix 4?
Yeah.
And how they made strawberries from, whatever coding from the Matrix or from the old times. And it was interesting. She mentioned like, oh yeah, and we're working on blueberries later. And there's like the red strawberry and the blueberry, so it's like the red pill blue pill thing. It was just
I love it.
I've been doing live streams on that recently, so I just wanted to throw that in the mix. But it's not a cherry on top of this discussion, not at all. We got plenty of time to go. We're about 50 minutes in, and I don't know how much time you got left, but Leslie, what kind of questions you got going on over there?
I was just thinking about how, again, there's another mind flip for the average person of just like throwing their seeds into the trash can, right? And not recognizing what they're actually holding, what is the value of a seed. And then that brings me into the idea of organic versus not organic. So I'd like you to talk about that a bit, the seed power. And
oh yeah, please. And you can throw in, the whole idea of composting. And like, if we're composting like GMO crap and all that stuff, what's the accumulation factor of that? Or
yeah. So our whole food forest is a compost bin. We don't put any leftover food in the garbage. We put it all, we just walk outside, we throw it in the land. The chickens eat what they want to eat, and the rest is eaten by the soil. And I was at this conference yesterday, which was big into XRP, and I do have some. My buddy said, buy some of this stuff, and I bought a little bit, and it went up in value 2.5 times. Now, there's something I want to mention about that. So many people think that that's the way to get rich is by gambling, and it is not. I'm going to ceremoniously sell that asset, and I'm going to put it into food forests. I'm going to buy more fruit trees with it, and I'm going to put that on film. And then I'm going to talk about the ROI. So anyway, at this conference, I said I brought some plants. One was a moringa drumstick, right? So a moringa, it's a long, skinny thing. It looks like a big drumstick. Inside that was probably 60 or 70 or 80 seeds. One seed can produce 1 million meals, really exponential amount of life, of nutrients, of vitamins and minerals over a relatively short time. Let's call it 10 years, and one seed can turn into so much food. So think about the ROI on that, right? We planted one moringa seed. Now we've got tens of thousands of moringa seeds, plus all the leaves and all the benefits that come from that. It's exponential. People think that XRP or Bitcoin was a good ROI. Well, a food forest in the world of the real is consistent. It doesn't just shoot up once. It shoots up every single time. It's exponential.
Damn, man. I just got to say something real quick because, living out here in France, I speak more this language than English, but is it really hard to distinguish? Anyways, ROI in French means king, le roi. And so, yeah, that's like some royal way to look at, things of, a return on investments with, and it's like we go by, Lex Rex, natural law is king. And so, nature, being aligned to nature and working with nature as stewards and just interacting and having that proper symbiotic relationship, and that's royal living, man. Yeah, I love it.
It is the ultimate. It's the ultimate royal living because it's the ultimate royal connection with source, with God. I grew up in Minnesota, so for me, this idea of Christ consciousness and Christ awareness is the language that I choose to use. Again, in another part of the world, they might use a different language to point to the same general idea, and that's great, fine with me, of course, right? So yes, this is the ultimate royal, and the word ROI for me is return on intention. My intention is to create life and build life and to serve, and the return I'm getting is exponential.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It.
It's a natural principle of growth, right? It's not something that we have to force or manipulate or steal from other people to get our riches, right? This is something that's tapping into a natural principle of abundance. It's available to all of us. And that's a way of thinking people don't often have. So there's the mindset switch is super powerful.
Yep. You nailed it. Yep.
Yeah. It's all about the mind, mentalism, one time for the mind, hermetic field and all that good stuff, which, someone Leslie, go.
I just wanted to get back to finish the last question about the importance of the difference of organic, and non-organic.
Yeah. We didn't really. Yeah.
It's all bullshit. The organic field is a lie. Now, is it important to eat foods that were harvested and grown without poisons? Yes, it's of utmost importance. Don't eat foods that are grown with poisons. Right? I just saw something on Coke the other day. Oh my God. You guys, this is all black rock. They're putting crazy bad stuff in the things that we consume. How do you know? Look at the health of the world. It's fallen apart. And it's not supposed to be like that. It's not normal. The reason I say organic is a lie, it used to not be. It simply means life, right? It means natural. But now the organic industry, I mean, think about this. You have to pay and go through years of BS in order to grow food without poisons. That's a scam.
Yeah, it's ass backwards for sure.
It's ass backwards. And now the guy, and you please correct me, somebody listening on this, but I believe it was the guy that was in charge of the FDA, or one of the CEO of Monsanto is now in charge of the FDA. So the biggest poison producing entity in the world is now running our organic industry. It's all backwards.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, that's discouraging, right? And it's like, so what do people do, right? You grow your own food so you have control over it, you know, as much as possible, right? And collaborate with other people.
Yeah, that's it. There's somebody growing their food in your area. Find them, befriend them, and pay them for what they're doing.
Yeah, I love that. What do you? I've heard things like, you know, that there's glyphosate, you know, in a lot of even the organically grown foods, and that there's seeds blowing in the air and things like that. And that seems to me like, you know, a risk, I guess, to people's efforts. What's your thought on that?
I think that nature is infinitely powerful. I think that God did not mess up the design. And when we build these systems, we will repel the parasites. The energy, frequency, vibration of anything that takes life will be repelled from these life-giving systems.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And I'm just going to add on because, yeah, Jim, you talked about in other interviews, and we could, you know, link a bunch, or especially, you know, you got your YouTube channel, website, and all that good stuff. But yeah, there's things that people have created that have revolutionized how we can regenerate the soil. I mean, compost tea, that's, you know, that's old school already. It's just been not really known that much in mainstream, just everyday living. We don't even have to call it agriculture. It's just, you know, we are of nature. We're living around nature all the time. So compartmentalizations, sometimes it kind of leads to separations, but anyways, you know, so fuck, I always do this. I lose my train of thought, but you know where I'm getting at though, a little bit.
I mean, I'm thinking, what I'm taking is that there is an answer in nature, right? And, you know, what I've learned about permaculture is that when, let's say, you have a certain insect eating your plants, that then you can think about another, perhaps a natural predator of the insect, and that there's creative ways to interact with your natural environment where nature kind of takes care of the problems. Is that accurate?
Yes, it's 100% accurate. Nature is the answer to all of the world's biggest problems, which is another way to say that God's design works and it's epic. And when I say that everybody can have the house that they want, everybody could be riding in private jets and all these things, because there's radical abundance. It's going to take a while to get to that. But that is the world that is coming. That is the golden age. And our job is to kind of inspire as many people out of their nasty programming as possible right now. And there's only now, by the way. I always, you know, people say, you know, do you have patience? And I'm like, no, I don't. I have presence. They say, you know, what's the biggest thing? It's now is the only time we're truly alive. And so anyway, when we focus on that, the messages come. Nature is the answer to all of it.
Yeah, totally. It's all about tapping into how we can work best with it, I suppose. And yeah, what I was trying to get at, I recall, but you know, for any type of pollution and all this stuff, there is a solution in regards to how overly intoxicated the elements of the earth have been due to, you know, crazy draconian human activity and all that stuff. But you know, when there is a will, there's a way, and you know, nature provides. It's all about us, you know, understanding what that is and not letting the government get in our way about these fucking things, you know, because they're holding us back. They're holding back, you know, and it's not just government, but you know, they're you know, in bed with corporate entities and all
It's
other
one thing.
things, right? So
Essentially, it's one thing. It's
yeah.
BlackRock, and it controls all of it, and it's controlled by a computer named Aladdin. The only way out is enlightenment. The only way out is a free mind in the metaphysical, and in the physical, the only way out is self-reliant local systems, right? And then to build community around these systems, and then to expand these systems. That's how we win the war. That's the idea whose time has come stronger than all the armies of the world. And that's what's happening right now exponentially. And it's a beautiful thing, my friends.
I'm really glad that you brought up this self-reliant local community concept, because that's something that it's crossed my mind, and I know other people's as well, that a big part of the solution, maybe the only way, is to work in local ways and kind of make smaller the circle of influence, but multiply it by many. I don't know.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
So guys, I love you guys. Thank you for having me on your show. To everybody listening, if you want to be part of this, the links are below, but foodforestabundance.com and Galt's Landing, GALTS landing.farm. Come stay with us. We have Airbnbs. We're in this incredible spot, right? We're going to be putting a dock out here. We've got a private lake. We've got a lot of neat things to see. And then, of course, the food forest. So come visit, be inspired, and plant some seeds.
Hell yeah. Can I ask you a question for folks? Because, you know, you're collaborating with Corey Angelate. I love seeing that. And, you know, he's a good friend of mine, honestly. He's not just, you know, someone I've collaborated with. And I've been, like, telling him for, like, over years, like, man, I'd love to come out there to Florida, but, you know, I'm c'est la vie out here living in France and this and that sometime. But any messages of encouragement for the youth? Because, you know, this generation is, you know, they're inundated by the digital world and this and that. So to kind of counteract that with find that balance and harmony with nature and get them back to the roots in a double or triple meaning, however you want to do it.
It's well, for the youth, that anybody listening, just look at the studies of kids who spend a lot of time on screens. The depression, the suicide, the chemical use, the big pharma use is off the charts. And on the flip side of that, when you walk barefoot in a food forest, you feel again. You feel deeply connected again. And that's what we all want. We all want to feel connected again. So, gosh, you guys, I love you guys. I do have to fly.
Much love.
Just a beautiful message. Could listen to you all day. You have so much wisdom to offer. But everyone, please check out Jim's work and Food Forest Abundance. And you're a very busy man. There's lots that you're sharing. So I think we can all learn from you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you both. Love you guys. You're amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to your visit in person.
Yeah, I would love that. We're going to have to plan it.
Okay.
Bye. Take care.
The smell around here, I wish you could smell this. It's just so alive. So I was getting some hell the other day from a guy. He was criticizing, saying, Jim, you are underplaying the maintenance of a food forest. You have to talk more about maintenance. So I came out here with my camera and I asked myself sincerely, I love criticism. I love feedback like that. So anyway, I said, okay, what maintenance have we done? We put this in about 20 months ago. What maintenance have we done in 20 months? And I started laughing before the question was even out of my head, out of my mouth. The only maintenance we've done in this food forest, which has like, I don't even know, hundreds of different plants. The only maintenance we've done is we've mowed the lawn in the middle. So I think eventually we'll have 0 lawns, you know, no more lawns. All right, let me get a good one for you, McKinley. Oh, this is a good one for you. Here, take that one. I'm gonna get one more of these. These are so delicious. Oh my God. Juca, cassava, you know, raspberries, sweet potatoes, ice cream bean, moringa, more longevity spinach, more raspberries, more cranberry hibiscus, more dill. Look at the different, I mean, it's just, look at this. This is no maintenance. And we did have a 40-year freeze and a flood all in last October. The flood was up to my, probably about, it was about a foot deep throughout this whole area, maybe a foot and a half deep. Look at the pineapple. And then the freeze actually did a little bit more damage, but almost everything came back. Part of the reason it came back is because there's water on both sides. In an area maybe a mile from here or a half mile from here where there's no water, water is a heat sink, it's a temperature moderator. There was people that had the same plants I did, but they lost some of their plants. So if you can have a pond, that's awesome. For those cold nights, maybe it dip down into the 29 range, which it did here. And of course, the plants that we plant in permaculture by zone. So whatever the agricultural zone is, those are the plants that are adapted to that zone are the plants that you're going to want to plant. And that's all part of the permaculture design process. In fact, we started, thank you Del Bigtree for hosting us on the High Wire about, it was Earth Day 2021. So what is that, 27 or 8 months ago? It was just me at the time and Travis. And we now are in 54 countries and 50 US states helping people grow food. We are bringing people together to the best of our ability because that's what we can do. In fact, another concept comes to mind. You've probably heard of the book Think and Grow Rich with Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill was commissioned to study the most successful minds in the world, the most successful manifestors. And Napoleon Hill deducted, after a lifetime, decades of study of these individuals, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. That's a pretty powerful concept. I've been playing with that. What I can conceive and believe is peace on earth. What I can conceive and believe is that we are going to achieve this ideal of the Garden of Eden everywhere. It's already been done in many pockets, so it's not a hypothetical. It's simply logical. It's how it should be. The Garden of Eden everywhere. And peace on earth. It's going to happen right now, my friends. I love you, Anarchapulco. Thank you for everything you're doing, for all the organizers, everybody involved. Let's change the world. Together, we win. Meal they need. When you add the chickens in, we've got cows in the cattle pasture, we've got fish in the pond and in the lake. We are completely food self-reliant, and we actually have much excess. And what do we do with the surplus? We reinvest it in society, and then the energy wheel, it's like an abundance of energy everywhere. And it'd be important that I also share that this is permaculture design, right? Everything we're doing is not a hypothetical demonstration to all of the world's biggest problems. It's a demonstratable solution to all of the world's biggest problems. Like, why do we have seashells instead of concrete or asphalt? Because when it rains, it puts calcium and minerals into the soil. And why do we have perennial peanut? Well, it's a nitrogen fixer. Comfrey is a dynamic accumulator. So we put guilds of plants together in a designed, functional way. Even the pineapple guava that we have at the beginning, they are hardy and they can take a cold wind because it gets kind of cold here in Orlando once in a while. The Mexican sunflower, that's another incredible chop and drop and a windbreaker as well. So look at how big that is. And that was only planted about 7-8 months ago. The only lawn in our community is right here.
And we are going to be putting all sorts of different fruit trees in this area. And some of the folks love the lawn. I don't hate lawns. It's the balance that is insane in our world, and it's the poisons. Number one, by far, is when we take the poisons out. If that's all we did, we're take the poisons out of our landscape, nature, God's design would explode to life again in ways that will blow your mind, that would cure all those diseases. So anyway, no poisons anywhere on our property. And we love tennis, so we've got tennis. Our kids love volleyball, so we have volleyball. In fact, the other night we had a really fun party here, and it was about 12:40. I left the party and I hadn't played tennis for about a week. So I called some of the 16-year-old kids that play tennis here. We played till 3 in the morning, lights on, music on, having a blast. And this is a good angle to check out the solar panels too. Now,
I appreciate nature and all that exists around me.